The storm brewed over the village, thunder rolling like ancestral drums. The people gathered near the sacred tree, their voices hushed, eyes wide with fear. The resilient one walked forward, heart pounding at the strange energy in the air. The wise elder stood at the base of the tree, his staff glowing faintly as though whispering with spirits unseen. Suddenly the sky cracked open with lightning, and the elder gasped, clutching his chest. "The curse has awakened," he said, his voice trembling with finality. The resilient one reached out, shouting, but the elder collapsed, his breath fading into the wind. The crowd wailed, and the protector rushed to shield the fallen body. The power-hungry leader stepped into the circle, eyes cold, whispering, "This is only the beginning." The betrayer looked on with conflicted eyes, torn between grief and ambition. The sacred amulet at the elder's neck shattered, fragments glowing as they scattered into the earth, and a voice rose from nowhere, echoing, "Bloodline bound, destiny chosen." Fear gripped the resilient one, realizing this moment would change everything. The village erupted into cries as the elder's body was laid before the sacred tree. The resilient one knelt, tears mingling with the rain, whispering, "Why must the ancestors choose me?" The protector gripped her shoulder firmly, saying, "Because you are strong enough." The power-hungry leader raised his hand, commanding silence, his voice smooth but sharp. "The curse falls upon us because tradition has failed. New ways must rise." The villagers murmured uneasily, some nodding, others weeping. The betrayer turned his back, hiding a frown that masked envy. The resilient one lifted her eyes to the heavens, whispering to the ancestors for guidance, but only thunder replied. Her heart tightened with fear, knowing the elder's final words marked her as chosen. At dawn, mist rolled over the village, dampening the cries that lingered through the night. The resilient one sat alone by the river, clutching a fragment of the shattered amulet. She whispered, "Elder, guide me, I am afraid." The waters shimmered faintly, but no voice answered. The protector approached, kneeling beside her. "You carry his spirit now. You must stand firm." She looked at him, her eyes filled with doubt. The betrayer appeared on the opposite bank, arms folded, watching in silence before walking away. The resilient one's grip tightened on the fragment, her resolve forming like iron, though her heart trembled. The villagers gathered in the council hut, their voices clashing like storm winds. Some cried that the curse was punishment for forgotten rites, while others blamed the elder's weakness. The power-hungry leader raised his voice above all, declaring, "The ancestors have abandoned us. I will lead us into a new age." The resilient one stood, trembling but firm, saying, "The elder's last words bind me to this path. I will seek the truth and break this curse." Gasps filled the hut. The protector nodded firmly, while the betrayer's lips curled with restrained envy. That night, the resilient one dreamed of the elder's spirit, his voice echoing in a void of swirling mist. "Your bloodline is the key. Seek the root, heal the wound." She reached for him, but shadows consumed his form, whispering curses. She woke trembling, sweat on her brow, clutching the shard of amulet close to her chest. "I will not fail," she whispered into the darkness. Outside, the wind howled, as if ancestors listened. The dawn sun cast long shadows, as the resilient one sat before the elder's shrine, her hands trembling on the fragment of the shattered amulet. She whispered, "If my bloodline carries the curse, then my blood must carry the cure." The protector entered quietly, kneeling with respect, his voice firm. "You do not stand alone. My blade and my spirit are yours." She glanced at him, grateful but haunted. The power-hungry leader arrived, his robe shimmering with gold in the sunlight, and said, "Tradition binds us to ruin. Only I can lead the people to safety." His words cut deep, echoed by some villagers nodding. The betrayer leaned against the hut doorway, arms folded, speaking softly, "Perhaps both ways hold truth, but only one will prevail." Silence followed, broken only by the crackle of incense smoke curling toward the shrine. The resilient one touched her forehead to the ground and whispered, "Ancestors, I will carry the weight, even if it breaks me." Later that day, the wise elder's hut was opened to reveal sacred scrolls and carved relics. The resilient one sat cross-legged, unrolling parchment inked with ancient prophecies. The elder's voice seemed to linger in her mind. "Your heritage is the key." She traced the symbols, feeling their power stir within her. The protector stood guard at the doorway, ever watchful. The betrayer entered, curiosity hidden behind a veil of calm, and asked, "Do you even understand what these words demand of you?" She replied, "They demand everything." The power-hungry leader did not enter, but sent his whispers through allies outside, spreading doubt and division. Villagers murmured, fearful of the curse's shadow. The resilient one clenched her fists, whispering, "I will not let fear rule us." Her resolve deepened as the symbols glowed faintly under her touch, a sign that destiny was already shaping her path. Night fell, and the resilient one walked to the ancestral grove, guided by whispers only she could hear. The moonlight bathed the trees in silver as fireflies flickered like restless spirits. She knelt before a stone altar covered in moss, pressing the shard of the amulet against it. Her voice quivered, "Show me the truth of my blood." The air thickened, and a vision unfolded. Warriors of old clashing, a woman crying as a curse was sealed, and the elder's face fading into shadow. She gasped, clutching her chest. The protector, who followed silently, steadied her, saying, "Do not fear what you see. Fear only forgetting who you are." The betrayer watched from behind a tree, his eyes wide with both awe and envy. The resilient one rose, trembling, whispering, "My family carried the wound that cursed us all." The grove echoed with ancestral whispers, heavy with expectation. The following morning, the council gathered again. The power-hungry leader stood in the center, his voice smooth and commanding. "The curse is born of weakness. Our ancestors cling to shadows. We must abandon them and walk in the light of new power." Murmurs of agreement stirred. The resilient one stood, her voice shaking but strong. "The curse is of our bloodline, and I will seek its root to heal it." The protector stood firmly at her side. The betrayer's eyes narrowed as villagers turned their support toward her. "Your path leads us into danger," he whispered, but no one heard. The leader scowled, his robes shimmering, knowing her defiance threatened his growing control. The moment hung heavy, as if spirits themselves lingered within the council hut, waiting to see whose truth would prevail. That night, the resilient one dreamed again, this time standing at the edge of a burning field. Shadows of her ancestors surrounded her, their faces solemn. One figure stepped forward, her grandmother whispering, "The wound was ours to bear, but the healing must be yours." Tears streamed down the resilient one's face as she reached out. The field erupted into flame, yet her hands glowed with light that pushed the fire back. The protector's voice pierced the vision faintly. "Wake, you are not alone." She opened her eyes, gasping, clutching the shard. The night wind howled, carrying the whispers of the ancestors, their voices urging her onward. "Seek the truth, or the curse will consume us all." They echoed in her heart. Fear turned to steel, and she vowed never to turn away. The village buzzed with tension as the council fire burned high, its smoke spiraling into the star-filled sky. The power-hungry leader spoke with force. "The curse is proof the old ways have failed." Villagers shifted uneasily, caught between fear and tradition. The resilient one stepped forward, her voice steady though her heart trembled. "The elder's final words bind me to the truth, not to abandon our ancestors." The protector rose beside her, hand on his blade, saying, "She does not stand alone." Murmurs rose, some in support, others in doubt. The betrayer smirked faintly, watching the crowd's division with quiet satisfaction. The fire crackled louder, sparks rising like restless spirits. The resilient one stared at the flames and whispered inwardly, "I will not let this path be broken by fear." At dawn, the resilient one walked through the village, hearing whispers behind her. Mothers pulled children close, elders shook their heads. The protector said, "Fear blinds them, but their hearts will follow courage." She nodded, though doubt gnawed within. The betrayer appeared at her side, his tone mocking. "You bear too heavy a burden. Perhaps you should leave it to one who truly understands power." She ignored his words, but his eyes gleamed with envy. From afar, the leader watched, speaking softly to his followers, planting seeds of rebellion. The resilient one lifted her chin toward the rising sun, whispering, "The ancestors watch, and I will not falter." The resilient one entered the sacred forest, the protector following closely. The air grew heavy, filled with the scent of damp earth and whispers like forgotten prayers. She touched a tree scarred by lightning and said, "The curse bleeds through the land itself." A soft wind rose, carrying echoes of ancestral chants. The protector whispered, "This place lives with their memory." Suddenly, shadows shifted, and the betrayer emerged, eyes intense. "Why search for ghosts when power lies in the living?" His voice carried bitterness, his body rigid with tension. The resilient one met his gaze, sorrow in her eyes. Because the living are lost without the dead who guide them. That evening, the leaders summoned villagers to the great square. His golden robe shimmered in torchlight as he declared, "Follow me, and I will break the curse with new power." Cheers rose from some, their fear turning into hope for easy salvation. The resilient one stood at the edge, fists clenched, knowing his path led to ruin. The protector whispered, "His words are poison, but they take root quickly." The betrayer watched both sides, torn between loyalty and desire for power. The leader's voice boomed, "The ancestors have failed. I will not." The resilient one whispered under her breath, "It is not power that heals, it is truth." That night, the resilient one sat outside her hut, staring at the glowing shard of amulet. She whispered, "If my bloodline cursed them, then I must redeem it." The protector sat nearby, sharpening his blade in silence, his loyalty unspoken but unwavering. From the shadows the betrayer watched, envy in his eyes as he muttered, "Why must fate always choose her?" The wind howled, and the shard pulsed faintly, illuminating her determined face. The leader's distant laughter echoed in the night, a chilling reminder that conflict was rising. The resilient one clenched the shard tightly, whispering, "I will not surrender to despair. Tomorrow, I walk deeper into the truth, no matter who stands against me." The resilient one left the village before dawn, the shard glowing faintly in her palm as mist rolled across the fields. The protector followed close, carrying his spear, silent yet vigilant. Birds stirred restlessly, their calls sharp in the still air. She whispered, "Every step draws me nearer to the truth." The protector said firmly, "And closer to danger, but danger is what we are born to face." The betrayer trailed behind them unseen, his eyes burning with envy and curiosity. The forest loomed ahead, trees rising like sentinels, guarding secrets too old to speak. The resilient one's heart pounded as she thought of the elder's words. She said to herself, "I must walk into shadows, for only there will the light be found." The wind picked up, carrying faint whispers of the ancestors, their tone both warning and guiding. The forest swallowed them whole, its canopy thick, letting only streaks of sunlight pierce through. Every step stirred fallen leaves that crunched like brittle bones. The resilient one touched a tree, etched with symbols glowing faintly, whispering, "These are marks of our ancestors." The protector rested his hand on the scarred bark, nodding. "They guide, but they test as well." The betrayer stepped into view, his voice sharp. "Or perhaps they chain us. Why worship what binds us?" The resilient one's voice rose, firm. "Because without roots the tree falls." Silence followed, broken by the eerie cry of an unseen bird. The forest seemed to breathe around them, shadows shifting as though alive, pulling them deeper toward what waited. By midday, they reached the river that cut through the forest, its water dark, flowing with a heavy current. The resilient one knelt at the bank, holding the shard above the water. Ripples spread, and suddenly visions formed on the surface. She saw battles of the past, blood spilled, and ancestors sealing the curse with their own lives. Her hands shook, and she whispered, "This wound runs deeper than I knew." The protector gripped her shoulder, steady as stone. Then we heal it, no matter the cost. The betrayer looked into the vision, his jaw clenched. Or we use it, make power ours. His words sent chills through the air. The river surged suddenly, waves rising as if angered. The resilient one rose, holding the shard tightly, her face pale, but resolute. Deeper into the forest, they found a clearing where stones were arranged in a circle, ancient and worn. The resilient one stepped inside, feeling the air thicken, her skin prickling with unseen energy. Whispers rose, the voices of ancestors calling. Bloodline truth, sacrifice. The protector stood at the edge, uneasy but loyal. The betrayer lingered in shadow, eyes wide with desire. This is power, he murmured. And it belongs to me as much as to you. The resilient one closed her eyes, whispering, power is nothing without purpose. The stones glowed faintly, their markings pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. A gust of wind swept through the clearing, carrying with it a warning that the path ahead would break or forge them. Night fell as they reached the heart of the forest, where a massive ancient tree towered above all others. Its roots twisted like serpents, its trunk scarred by countless storms. The resilient one pressed the shard into a hollow at its base. The ground trembled, and ancestral voices thundered. Blood ties cursed, blood ties freed. She staggered, visions striking her mind. Her family's betrayal, the sealing of the curse, and the blood debt left unresolved. She cried out, falling to her knees. The protector rushed to her side, holding her steady. You are strong enough, he whispered. The betrayer's face twisted with envy as he muttered, if strength is what the ancestors demand, then I will prove myself. The forest roared with power, setting the stage for choices that could not be undone. The night air was heavy, the ancient tree's roots glowing faintly, as if alive. The resilient one leaned on the protector's arm, her body trembling from visions still burning in her mind. She whispered, my bloodline cursed us all, yet I must be the one to heal it. The protector's voice was steady. Your strength is greater than their sins. From the shadows, the betrayer stepped forward, his eyes blazing. Enough of your destiny. The curse is mine to break, and the power will be mine to command. The resilient one looked at him, her face lined with sorrow. This is not the way. His voice cracked with envy. It is the only way left to me. The tree groaned, as though sensing the conflict, its bark cracking with light. The betrayer stepped into the stone circle, his hands outstretched, shouting, ancestors, hear me. If bloodline binds, then I will claim it for myself. The resilient one reached for him, pleading, do not walk this path. The protector moved to intercept, but the stones flared with light, forming a barrier that pushed him back. The betrayer's body shook as power surged through him, his face twisted in both pain and ecstasy. The resilient one cried out, this is not strength, it is destruction. His laughter echoed through the forest, bitter and wild. Then let destruction free us all. The trees groaned, animals fled, and the ground trembled. The curse had been awakened more violently than before. Visions erupted around them, ancestors appearing in spectral forms, their voices thunderous. One spirit spoke, the curse was born of betrayal, and betrayal awakens it again. The resilient one fell to her knees, the shard glowing fiercely in her hands. She whispered, I must stop him, or all is lost. The protector's voice carried over the chaos. Stand, for your people need you. The betrayer glared at her, his eyes glowing with unnatural fire. You were never worthy. The ancestors chose wrong. The spirits wailed, circling them like a storm. The resilient one rose, determination in her eyes. They did not choose wrong. They chose the one who still remembers mercy. Her words cut through the noise, but the betrayer only roared louder, defiant against both family and fate. The power-hungry leader entered the clearing with his followers, his golden robe shining in torchlight. He smiled coldly, saying, I see your bloodline devours itself. I will end this curse by ending you both. The resilient one raised her voice, you twist fear into lies. The curse cannot be broken by greed. The protector stepped in front of her, spear raised. "You'll not harm her while I draw breath." The betrayer snarled, consumed by rage. "She is not fit to lead, nor you to protect. The curse is mine to command." Sparks of power surged between the two rivals, their hatred feeding the chaos. The leader watched with satisfaction, already plotting to seize victory, whichever way the fight fell. The forest pulsed with fury, as though nature itself raged at their conflict. The storm reached its height, lightning splitting the sky as voices of ancestors clashed with screams of the living. The resilient one stood between the betrayer and the leader, her voice breaking but strong. "The curse is not a weapon, it is a wound, and wounds must be healed." The betrayer roared, "Then heal yourself first before you heal us." He lunged, power spiraling around him. The protector blocked, sparks flying as their clash shook the ground. The leader smirked, whispering to his men, "Let them tear each other apart, then I shall rise." The resilient one gripped the shard, feeling its warmth burn into her skin. "I will carry this burden, no matter the cost." Her words silenced the spirits for a moment, the forest pausing as if to witness the turning of fate. The clearing fell into chaos as thunder roared above, the ground trembling under ancestral power. The resilient one pressed the shard to her chest, whispering, "Guide me, ancestors, for I cannot walk blind." The protector stood beside her, his spear flashing in the stormlight, eyes unyielding. The betrayer, consumed by power, snarled, "I will shatter you both, and the curse will be mine alone." The power-hungry leader smirked, raising his hand to signal his followers. "The curse breaks tonight, but not by you." The resilient one raised her voice, trembling but clear. "This trial is not of power, but of spirit." Her words hung heavy, silencing even the storm for a breath. Then the ground split, light surging from the roots of the great tree, creating a circle of fire and energy around them. The trial had begun. Ancestral spirits rose in a storm of mist and fire, their voices echoing through the trees. Blood against blood, truth against shadow, they thundered. The resilient one lifted the shard high, light bursting from its surface, illuminating the grove. The protector shielded her from the fiery wind, his stance unshaken. The betrayer roared, "I will not kneel to the past." His energy lashed outward, striking the roots of the ancient tree. The power-hungry leader stepped forward, his voice smooth. "Let them weaken themselves. When their spirit breaks, I shall claim what remains." The resilient one cried out, "You will claim nothing but ruin." The ground quaked again, and a fissure opened, swallowing fire and darkness alike. The spirit's chorus rose louder, demanding a choice of sacrifice. The spirits swirled tighter, forming ghostly figures of ancestors whose eyes glowed with sorrow and judgment. One pointed at the resilient one and said, "Your family's wound cut us all. Will you bleed to mend it?" She trembled but answered, "Yes, if that is the path." The protector gripped her shoulder, whispering, "You are not alone in this sacrifice." The betrayer spat bitterly, "She plays martyr, while true strength is mine." He struck again, his body crackling with unstable energy. The leader laughed low, whispering to his men, "Soon she will break, and I will inherit the ashes." The shard pulsed hotter in her hand, searing her skin, yet she did not release it. Her tears fell, glowing as they touched the soil, and the spirits quieted, waiting for her choice. The trial grew harsher, winds ripping through the grove as lightning struck the ancient tree. The protector fought to shield the resilient one, his spear braced like a fortress. The betrayer staggered under his own power, shouting, "I will not be forgotten." The resilient one rose to her feet, blood streaking her arm where the shard had burned. She cried, "The curse does not bind me alone. It binds us all." The spirits whispered in agreement, their forms flickering in approval. The leader snarled, realizing the trial was slipping from his control. He barked to his men, "Take her now." But the circle's fiery barrier flared, keeping them out. The resilient one raised the shard higher, her voice shaking but true. "I will heal what was broken, though it cost me everything." The storm reached its peak, voices of ancestors clashing with cries of the living. The shard burned white hot, splitting into streams of light that pierced the ground, the sky, and the tree. The resilient one cried, "Take me if you must, but free my people." The protector's voice broke, "No, your life cannot be the price." The betrayer, weakened and desperate, shouted, "If she will not claim it, I will." He lunged, but the light threw him back violently. The leader shielded his face, cursing the barrier he could not breach. The spirit's chorus rose, declaring, "One must yield, one must heal, one must feel, one must fall." The resilient one fell to her knees, exhausted but defiant, whispering, "Then let it be me." The light swallowed the clearing, setting the stage for the final confrontation. The battlefield lay quiet, broken only by the whispers of the wind. Smoke curled from scorched earth, carrying the bitter scent of ash and loss. The resilient one stood above the fallen, power-hungry leader, her chest rising with labored breath, her heart torn between sorrow and triumph. The power-hungry leader, his once proud eyes now dim, whispered with defiance, "Power was mine to claim, yet destiny chose you." She replied firmly, "You sought to rule, but your hunger left only ruin." The protector limped forward, his wounds deep yet his spirit unbroken, saying, "The curse has ended, but scars will remain across the land." The betrayer stood apart, shadows covering his face, eyes heavy with regret. The voices of the ancestors rose in unseen song, their strength washing over the silent crowd. The resilient one raised her face to the dawn and said, "This victory belongs not to me, but to the people and the spirits who carried us here." The betrayer stepped forward, his legs trembling as villagers gathered, their faces hard with grief and anger. He cried out, "I sought only to take what I thought was mine, but I destroyed what was ours." His voice cracked, echoing against the silence. The villagers whispered like a rising storm, some demanding punishment, others lowering their heads in pity. The resilient one said with sorrow, "You betrayed blood and spirit, but blood still binds you to us." The protector growled, "Your envy nearly destroyed us, and trust cannot return easily." The betrayer collapsed to his knees, tears streaking his face as he whispered, "Forgive me, though I cannot forgive myself." The resilient one raised her eyes to the sky, saying, "Let the ancestors judge, for their vision surpasses ours." A sudden hush fell over all, the air thick with unseen judgment. "Aye!" The betrayer bowed low, his fate suspended in silence. The protector staggered, clutching his side where blood seeped through torn armor. The resilient one rushed to hold him, her eyes fierce with worry. He smiled faintly, whispering, "I am not broken, only tested." His words carried strength that silenced doubt. She said, "You bore my burdens when shadows consumed me. Without you, I would not stand here." His gaze hardened with pride, and he said, "I swore to defend you until my final breath, and I will not fail." His voice was iron, though his body trembled with weakness. The villagers murmured, some crying, others whispering prayers of gratitude. The betrayer turned away, unable to face the loyalty he had abandoned. The resilient one raised her voice, "This loyalty is our strength. Our bond is the shield that protects us, our unity the weapon that endures." The crowd stirred, hope returning like the first spark of fire. The sacred grove shimmered with silver light as the resilient one stepped forward, heirloom in hand. She raised it high, its glow piercing the darkness. She cried, "Let this curse be unbound. Let freedom return to our people." The air grew heavy, trees groaning as ancestral voices swelled like a storm. The protector stood steady, though pain gripped his body, his spear grounding him. The betrayer watched from afar, tears catching the moonlight, torn between shame and longing. The earth trembled, and the heirloom's light engulfed the resilient one, her body trembling under its force. She screamed, "By blood and by spirit, balance is restored." The light split into radiant beams, racing outward across the land. Shadows dissolved, crops shimmered with sudden life, and cries of joy rose in the night. Drums beat from unseen hands, a rhythm of rebirth echoing across the sky. At dawn, the resilient one climbed a hill overlooking her village, the sun's fire bathing the land in gold. Below, fields shimmered with new growth, and children's laughter carried in the air. She sat upon a stone, her gaze fixed on the horizon where sky kissed earth. The wise elder's voice whispered within, "Your strength was never yours alone. It was the gift of all who walked before you." She closed her eyes, tears falling like rain, not of sorrow but of release. The protector watched from afar, his hand pressed to his wound, pride glowing in his eyes. The betrayer knelt among the villagers, silent, humbled by the weight of forgiveness. The resilient one whispered softly, "I am no longer the cursed one. I am the keeper of our renewal." The ancestors' voices faded into wind, leaving only peace. The journey had ended, but her legacy had only begun.